with some lighter tones, some more pastels. This one right here is called Blossom, and this one right here is Bouquet, and the Bouquet actually has some of the more neutral colors with the cream and the white. All of these are 12 by 24 inches, so you get quite a lot of the actual surface area to make florals, and you can mix and match them. I have a bunch of them at home, and I've had a lot of fun mixing and matching the different colors. But then I want to show you some of the different die sets that we created kind of exclusively to go with this. One is our Chapter 2 Floral Blossom. This is a really nice set. It comes with 4 different flower petals and then 3 different flower centers. So that's a nice one. You can use any Thinlits or Biggs dies to cut this material, but this is the actual set right here. This one we created kind of exclusively to come out with this. We also created the elegant leaves. So it comes with 3 different leaf shapes, and then this seeded eucalyptus, which is a really nice little textural element. And then we came out with a 3D embossing folder called Leaf Veins. So this particular folder, if you open it up, you can see it has really realistic kind of the leaf veins right through here. And you can 3D emboss the sculpting foam material. So it gives you a really realistic kind of final project, I guess. And then we also came out with stamens. These flower stamens right here, this is our pink and purple pack. They come with 400 in a pack. And you also can see that we came out with gold and silver metallics, and then we also came out with white and cream. So you get quite a bit for each pack, which is nice because you only need about 3 to 6 per flower center. So I'll move these ones out of the way. I want to show you our actual sculpting foam. You can see it's really durable, it doesn't tear, and it's just it's not very thick either. It's a really thin surface. So I'm going to actually cut a couple of flowers. I've already pre-cut a few of my larger blooms so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. I like to create doubles of everything. Just makes the flower feel more full. And then I'm going to cut a couple more of the small one. So you can actually cut through 2 of these at a time, which is not something I normally would recommend, but it does work with the foam, which is nice. So there we go. We've got both our foam pieces. And you can see that it created a little bit of an indentation. That will go away the minute we heat it up, which is my favorite aspect of this particular surface, is that it's very forgiving. So if you see an indentation from cutting or from when you're actually sculpting and you don't like it, you can reheat it and all of that disappears, which I don't think there's many surfaces that do that. Let me put my dies out of the way. I've already cut some of the leaf shapes, but it's the exact same concept. So now what I like to do, not everyone does this, but I like to at least kind of have a little bit of control on how I am able to manipulate the flower shapes. So I'm gonna only be heating these in stacks of 2. You can heat them individually. You can also stack it all together and heat it all at once, which I'll do in a little while. But I just want to get mine ready to go in smaller stacks. So I'm gonna use my tweezers and hold them down in the center, and I'm gonna take my heat tool right here and heat it on the highest, and you'll see as I heat it that they begin to kind of curl in and bend in on themselves. That's the exact temperature that you want them so that you can then manipulate them. Find if you go under a little bit, that helps too. See how it's curling in on itself? That's when you know it's at the perfect temperature. And you can keep going if you want them smaller, but I don't want mine too small. And then I like to just bend my flower petals the way I want them. And then if it gets cold before you get to it, this is why I like to do mine individually. It's fine. You can go back in and you can just keep heating it up and it'll keep warping the way you want it to. One other thing I want to point out is that you can actually take the stylus tools from the paper sculpting kit and use those to get the curls that you might want. So if I want them to curl in a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep doing that on the next couple of stacks, and then we'll get to assembling. So this one I actually want to be like that because it's going to be my center, so I don't want it to be too wild and crazy. Now, as with anything you're heating, you don't want to get your heat tool too close to it in one spot for too long, otherwise you will start to get burn marks. So this one, I just want my petals to feel a little bit wider, so I'm just going in and pulling them apart with my two thumbs. Okay, so now you can see when I stack it all up, I've got this beautiful realistic flower that had started off completely flat. And what I've done is I've gathered a few of each one of our packs, and I'm just gonna pick, with the bigger flowers, I recommend like 5 or 6 stamens for the center. And then what I like to do is get them all lined up in a row, and then I fold it in half, and then I do this nice twisting thing so they all kind of come together. You can put a little bit of glue, which I find is actually easier, is if you place a small amount of glue on the edge, and you just let it sit and dry for just a few seconds while it cools off. So when you touch it, it doesn't burn your finger. You can actually use the finger protectors and do this, and then I just roll it between my two fingers. So then you get them all to stay together, which for our next part is actually really beneficial. So then what you're gonna do is you can take a die pick and you can just push a hole into the center. These reverse action tweezers have a really sharp tip, so I'm just gonna use those real quick. And you just push through. Like that, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the back side of each flower with my tweezers till it comes through. And I'm just gonna line them up. You can do one at a time. It might make your life a little bit easier when you're first working with these. Once you get the stacks and you've done it a lot, it gets a little bit easier to stack them up. Okay. And then you notice I won't hot glue this together till the very end because I want to be able to move things around. So this all right here is just so you can get your flower stamens in. So I've got them all centered on. Now I'm gonna pull open my tweezers to grab the very end of this stamen stack. And you wanna make sure you don't pull through too soon like I just did, because then it won't pull them through. So you gotta have to gently work it through. So I'm not gonna force it, I'm just gonna kind of pull it through best I can. This one I might have done the glue on the edge, the end too much, because it's made it a little bit thicker and harder to get through. So I'm just gonna pull a little bit higher up and then pull them through. There we go. One just doesn't want to work with me today. This is normally very easy, but of course the minute you're on camera, it never goes the way you want it to. Okay, try this one more time. You know what? We're just gonna go from above because it'll get the same thing. There we go. So now I've got it through the bottom. Sometimes it needs just a little extra finesse. Now, You could just leave it like this and make it for a really beautiful card front like this, where I took a bunch of different ones from different sets and made all the flowers flat. But you can also then, if you wanted to, take this part and make it into an actual flower, and then you would just use floral tape right here around the edges and wrap it around, and then you can add your leaves on if you wanted to make it a standing one for a bouquet. Right now I'm just gonna do a flat one and finish it off. What I like to do is, when I'm doing flat ones, I like to place a bit of glue on the back side to then push this stamen into. So what I do is I start to initially push it, and then I actually just push it straight into the glue accessories mat, because this is a heat resistant mat, so it actually ends up making the glue flat like right away and cools it off. So then once I've got it laying down, that's when I go back in and add in a little bit more glue so I can get it to stay so it doesn't keep moving around. And I just go in, add a little dab, nothing crazy. And this just keeps it from rotating around. But while that sits and dries, I also want to show you how you can get the leaf shapes to look more realistic. So I'm going to go down to the tab on my platform that allows for 3D embossing. And you can heat up the actual material, the sculpting foam material, and then put it through the folder, but I find it actually sculpts just fine without even adding heat to it. So we'll put this right against the platform, and then because it's a 3D folder, you only need one cutting pad for the top. And then I'm gonna go through twice just because I really want that to imprint. This is amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see. And look, just like that, you get these really realistic leaves. And then because this is now dry, see how it dries so nice and clear against the silicone mat. I love this. And then I'm just gonna go through and glue on, hot glue on these leaves onto the back so I get my final flower. Put on my finger protector to push it in. I have found so far that the only adhesive that really works with this material the best is hot glue. So that is the material that I would recommend. And I'm just gonna flip that over and let it keep drying off. But you've got this really pretty, super realistic flower, and it didn't take that much time to accomplish. So I'm gonna just show you one of the other heating techniques that you can do to create a realistic flower. So we did ours in small groups, but you can also heat it all up in one stack. So I've pre-cut, same flower set, but I've pre-cut this stack right here, and I've cut out one of the centers. So I'm just gonna do the same thing that I did in the previous one, but I'm gonna heat them all up at once. The look of how that is. And I'm going to go in, I'm just going to sculpt some of these just a little bit. Okay, and then since I've got it on there pretty nice, I feel like I can just go straight through the back and push through. Okay, and then this one, since it's a smaller flowers I only do 2 to 3 stamens personally. I find anything more makes it too thick to pull through the flower. So I'll do the same thing, double it in half, roll the center. And this time I'm not gonna do the glue, just to hopefully have it pull through a little bit easier. See how it pulled right through? I just find the glue centers are a little bit easier because it holds it all together, but you don't have to do that. And then I'll just do some more glue down the middle. Kind of aim it that direction, And just let it sit there and get the glue. While that dries, I've already pre-cut some other leaves, and I'm just going to glue these two together real quick. And this is probably already dried, which it has, and then I'll just end up gluing this onto this. And there you go. Some quick, beautiful, realistic flowers. You can cut them from any Thinlit shapes, any Biggs dies, anything like that. And like I said, if you wanted to cut a bunch of them and put them onto some floral stems, you can actually make a beautiful bouquet. So this one right here uses some of our more bold colors, and we've got our flower stamens. We've also got the leaves on through here, and I'll just flip it upside down so you can see right here. We just took where the end of the stamens is, and that's where you but that's where you kind of adhere it with the floral tape. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. All of this is available on Sizzix.com and Sizzix.co.uk, and we look forward to seeing all that you come up with this new material. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.